Do you feel like your suffering is more than you can bear? There are probably very few who have suffered more than the Apostle Paul, and yet his testimony is that no matter how bad it got, because of his faith in God and the worthiness of his Savior, he never gave up. In 2 Corinthians 4:1, he says, because of what God has done in his life, he never gives up. If that sounds kind of mystical and pie in the sky, or because he was some kind of apostle, go down to verse 8 and see how bad things were for him. First, he says, we're pressed on every side by trouble. He didn't just have one or two troubles, he was buried in trouble. Yet he says we're not crushed. Then he goes on to say we're perplexed or confused or unable to perceive what's going on, and yet we're not driven to despair. Verse 9 says we're hunted down, but not destroyed. The only way Paul could live this way is because God was at the center of it all for Paul. Paul was not lacking for difficulty, and I guarantee Paul was not lacking for temptation to give up. But if you notice, every one of those circumstances were so extreme. But every one of Paul's responses were that God gave him everything he needed to not be crushed, to not despair, because he was never abandoned by God. Let this truth change how you think, believe, and act so God will be glorified in your life today.